maybe we can dig into that a bit more with the subtitle of your book there, why it's bad for scientists and good for lawyers. Can you say more a little bit about the book and its overview and how this maybe thin slice of reality that we have makes it hard for scientists to really describe reality in its fullness, but maybe works really well, as you're pointing out, for lawyers who are kind of creating the social norms and cooperation between people?
Sure. So, that subtitle was a kind of last minute addition in a way, kind of borrowing in a way some of that terminology around, the idea that from kind of social psychology sometimes talks in this way about how, we don't have an inner scientist so much as an inner lawyer. And which is a way of saying that, human beings seem to be more oriented to influence, persuasion, justification than we are to, arriving at the facts. And
Yeah.
that's often because, well, it's a bit paradoxical. So of course the facts are crucial for us. Otherwise, we court disaster. We don't want to
Mm-hmm.
walk around with false beliefs about what's, around the next corner and things like that. But language is not a perceptual apparatus. We have a body to perceive the world. Language is a coordinative tool, so it's a tool for coordinating with others. It wouldn't exist if it didn't have that function. I mean, there are of course secondary functions that we can use for thought and so forth, and it's really changed humans. The fact that we have language, but primarily language exists as a coordinative tool. And so that is what I'm trying to capture with that idea of the difference between kind of what a scientist needs language for and what a lawyer needs language for. So what is a lawyer doing? A lawyer is trying to persuade, trying to convince. And I guess the key thing about a lawyer is that they come into their job on a particular occasion. I mean, at the very beginning of the process, that of course, and at any time, they're interested in the fact. But at a certain point, they take a position, which is the position in the interest of their client, and they seek to find every way of defending that position that they can. And so what do? Well, they rely very heavily on, um, on language, so on linguistic choices. So I have some description of a lot of examples actually in the book, but some of them are from legal proceedings as it happens. So in one of the examples, it's a rape trial, and there is a well-known trope around these kinds of trials where a woman has been attacked, has been assaulted, and after the fact, there is an argument around, not just what happened, but why and how. So one of these tropes is that the woman is, the lawyer who's defending the accused then tries to frame the woman's behavior as somehow inviting that action, inviting that behavior, and so forth. So there's all of this kind of framing around consent and that kind of thing. So I report a study that was done around the kind of courtroom discourse where the lawyer is saying things like he saying to the woman who was assaulted, about the man's behavior that evening before the incident. He sat with you, and the woman replies saying he sat at our table.
Mm.
So this is an example where it seems like a very subtle difference, but he sat with you. If you accept that way of framing it, it's saying, he was part of your group. You were somehow, associated with him already. It's made some social commitments to this person. Whereas when she says he sat at our table, you see it's just focusing now on the spatial location. He was at the table, but it's very kind of, artful in a way, kind of way of reframing it to say that, I deny those implications of kind of association, sharing within the same group, and so on. So there's a number of other examples in that particular case, but this would be one case where there probably isn't a scientific way to determine that one of those descriptions is better than the other or more accurate than the other, right? He sat with us versus he sat at our table. And that's because the real task of this linguistic choice is to persuade and convince people to come to a certain agreement about the reality. And so, okay, that's the lawyer's task in a way, that they love language because it kind of gives them all this kind of wiggle room, you know. With scientists, it's tough because they're kind of like scouts who I mean, ideally, what you're trying to do is not argue for a certain idea to be true, but to just find out what is true. Now, I know that's an ideal because if you're involved in science at all, you know that people get very attached to their beliefs and their theories and they try to defend them tooth and nail. And there's a whole discussion we could have around that. But if we just stick to the ideal of what science is supposed to be about, imagine that you really are a scout in the military sense, that you're part of a group who wants to take a military action, and you've got to go out and actually discover where are the enemy troops and where are the vulnerabilities and what kinds of weapons or vehicles they have or whatever you need to know. Well, you want to come back with accurate information, right? It's not that you want to come back and persuade your fellow soldiers of something that not to be true or that you're not sure about. You want reliable, accurate information. And so that's essentially what a scientist is supposed to be doing if you're designing a medicine or some kind of treatment or some kind of, whatever scientists do, a manufacturing kind of process or something. You want it to work. You want bridges to stay up when cars drive over them and all the rest of it. So for them, it's not really about trying to frame reality and convince people. It's trying to cut through all of that kind of and get to the bottom of it. Because of course, language, the reality exists independent of the way we talk about it. If a bridge falls down, doesn't matter what language you're speaking, you're going to fall down with it.